This week, all of the seniors in the first class to graduate from Chattanooga Prep received their diplomas on time. 2 months ago, new leadership came on board at the all-boys public charter school in the Highland Park neighborhood. At that time, graduation day seemed in doubt amid headlines about teachers without proper licenses and hiring practices at the school and an official recommendation to revoke the school's charter status. Instead, Chattanooga Prep was placed under probationary status by Hamilton County Schools, and after a review of courses, all the seniors were allowed to graduate. Troy Kemp is CEO, and Chad Everett is Vice President of Schools for Prep Public Schools, which runs Chattanooga Prep and Knoxville Prep. Troy, Chad, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We're glad to be here.
Tell us a bit more about each of you and your roles now at Chattanooga Prep.
I'm a career educator. I spent over 3 decades working in schools as a teacher, as a coach, as an administrator, even as a dorm parent. I spent 27 of those years specifically working with boys. We've won a number of championships and created more champions and championships, actually. But I've sort of made my journey from New York as a child, attending Colgate University, teaching in a co-ed environment, moving to Chattanooga, Tennessee, spending 27 years in Chattanooga on the campus of Macaulay School, but then turning around and we created the National Center for the Development of Boys to serve everyone in the community, not just the people who attended one school or another. Then made my way to Atlanta for the past 6 years, spending time at the Ron Clark Academy, where I got to actually be an administrator and lead professional development for educators. So literally being at several different schools, seeing excellence at different levels, but more importantly at the Ron Clark Academy, learning how to scale it in other institutions. So I think each part of my journey has allowed me to have sort of some expertise in terms of the types of students we serve, in this case, young men at Chat Prep, and also making sure that we understand how do you do it at a high level and make it consistent throughout all aspects of the school.
Chad, how about you?
What I love about Troy's story is actually it sounds so linear and nice. I was an accidental educator. So I started my career originally planning to go to law school. I started my career in North Mississippi, working in instructional technology, moved from instructional technology to curriculum and instruction, from curriculum and instruction to pupil services, from pupil services out to the classroom. I worked as a literacy coach and an assistant principal, driving a bus, doing everything under the sun. I would say that's the way of the world in education in general, but definitely in Mississippi. So if you didn't have a bus route, you weren't a teacher or a coach in Mississippi. About 5 years ago, I made the jump across the state line in Tennessee to step my toes in the waters of charter schools and never look back. I led city university schools for a brief time, moved from there back to the classroom, called my soul-searching moment of leadership where I really was defining and figuring out, is this what I wanted to do? I had some colleagues on the hallway there, they would always ask, they'd say, why are you here? You're called to lead. You got to be back in leadership. On my planning period one day, I got a phone call to come lead an organization, or in an organization at that time was Green Dot. Now it's Iowa Community Schools in Memphis as principal of Bluff City High School. Led there for 3 years technically. Went from there to chief operations officer for Iowa Community Schools, but I had a great time there. Charter, I love it. Grateful for this opportunity to be here and get to continue to serve in the charter world.
And then talk more about your roles there at Chattanooga Prep.
Yeah, so I serve as a CEO, which means mainly things external, but also when you talk about vision and strategy for the school, looking at the whole child, what is the experience like comprehensively, not just for the students, but also for their parents. How do you build a community around the young men? Kids are in school about 22 to 25% of the time that they're awake. What happens in the other 75% of the time? So making sure we have a connected community of adults who care for them, but also give them opportunities. We're aiming for college, but we want to make sure they also have options beyond that. So different kinds of partnerships. How can we leverage the community, the assets in the community and the partnerships in the community to elevate what happens with every boy at our school?
I get to pick up from there and take that vision and those partnerships and actualize them every day on the ground with students and with leaders for what does that vision look like in classrooms for instruction? What does that vision look like for every single scholar, every single day from the bus to the cafeteria to athletics? What do we want as we build the men of tomorrow? And so my job is to translate that and say, put shoe leather on.
Why did you each choose to take the opportunity at Chattanooga Prep? Talk about what went wrong there before you both got there and how you and others there are trying to fix it now.
Well, sometimes I think people say if you make 3 rights, you end up in the same place you started from, right? You make a circle. Same thing as if you make 3 lefts, same thing happens. When decisions are made and the turn is made in the wrong direction, when the root cause of it is sometimes people are trying to do the right thing by people, but also sometimes people are moving too fast. You know, when you're trying to scale, when you're trying to be your best, sometimes, especially when you've gone through COVID and some other things, there's a process that you have to do things in, an order of operations, if you would. And when you look at why I chose to be a part of this is, my life's been on fire about half of it, right? I mean, Chad talks about, I grew up as a migrant worker. I grew up in the fields. I grew up with a lot of struggle. So you just learn to become more resilient, but you also be optimistic and resourceful. And so I saw Chattanooga Prep come out of the ground when the school first started, when the Allings were like, I want to build a school. I was trying to help them look at a vision of what great schools are like in America, but also how to support the staff. So when you see something, I care about the school. I care about the kids. I care about Chattanooga. I spent my adult life in the city. So being able to come back just because there's fire, there are firefighters everywhere. And really, when you look at the responsibility of the people who are in charge, Mr. Everett says it best, it's not our fault, but it's our responsibility to kind of move it forward. And basically, there were some best practices that were not followed. You're better off with systems because emotions create blind spots. And a lot of the things that were done at the school were emotional decisions versus decisions that had systems built. And so our job is to come in and put systems in place to protect not only the decision makers, but certainly the students, but also the institution.
Build off what he said, systems deliver sustainability, systems deliver success. It ensures that there's no one person that anything rests on to get right, and that no one person can get so much wrong that it takes an entire body of people to clean it up. I think one of the things that we found is there were some core systems that needed refinement and some that needed to be built out in entirety. And so our work over the last few months has been ensuring that that's happening, ensuring that we are looking forward to the future, but also making sure that we're sustainable right now.
Talk about how you see where Chattanooga Prep is now in its relationship with the school district.
This situation provided the opportunity for what most people hope for in the state of Tennessee and really all over, that you actually see charter schools partner with school districts and realize that it's not adversarial. We serve students and we serve all students. And this situation, while not the sort of the impetus that we would have hoped for, definitely has provided a proof point for that. We're grateful to the work of Hamilton County Schools and their team there. They've been supportive every step of the way, ensuring that those scholars get what they need, not just our seniors, but every single scholar in that building, the education that they're entitled to make sure that they're prepared for whatever comes after high school.
I want to make sure that people know that, again, it's a charter school, but it is a public charter school. And so when you look at that partnership that we have with the district, it's absolutely essential that most people realize that the school was founded to create a tuition-free option for students to have an excellent experience. Give some of the kids who have the least the most, and they'll rise too. And so this partnership with the district allows us to have the communication and assets, the support to make sure that we're doing things by the book in the best interest of the students at all times. So oversight is absolutely essential in all things. You have the FDA, you have the airlines, the Food and Drug Administration, TSA, all these organizations are there to protect you. And again, they are systems that are in place, so why not utilize the system to the fullest capacity? This gave us an opportunity to do that.
And as a public charter school, what sets Chattanooga Prep apart from the rest of that school district?
Well, the first thing, it's an all-boys school. Now, there is another all-boys school in town, but there's a tuition. So having access to an all-boys school, which basically says there's more focus, fewer distractions, kids have a safe place to fail, so they're more likely to try more often. The brotherhood piece is very important. We say students need a crew and a cause. They need to know that they can contribute in a meaningful and measurable way to something bigger than themselves. When a child and a family chooses to enroll in that school, that means that they mean business. The world is co-ed, we understand, but you have to be comfortable somewhere before you're comfortable everywhere. And so one of the biggest things is to make sure that they can ride as quickly as they can in a lane with the least amount of friction, and they'll go farther.
Opportunity and exposure. One of the things that I've loved in coming to town and hearing the vision for the founding of Chat Prep and getting to hear Mr. Kemp and the work that he saw in those early years, this statement is true, is that money will never stand in the way of a student at Chat Prep having the opportunity and exposure that they deserve. And every single day, our staff, our leaders, our board, and our donors and those who give so generously to us to do that work is that we provide opportunity and exposure that sometimes many students from historically divested communities don't get to experience. And they get to experience it there. A dollar sign will never get in the way of our scholars getting what they need.
The school enrolls a certain number of students, but the impact of great institutions resonates throughout the city. It changes the narrative in terms of what students can be. They have to see examples of excellence from people that they know. To see a celebrity achieve, they don't know how they got there. They don't know the 500 steps it took to get there. But to see someone from their neighborhood, from their community rise, particularly when they had adverse situation, and to see that that can be overcome through that type of focus, systems, through education. They have to go to school. Why not go to a school that where you want to be versus a place where you have to be? Kids do better in places they want to be. And adults do as well. So the goal of the whole thing is to create an ethos and an atmosphere that has a lot of pride, so you look forward to coming to school versus having to do that as just a job. It's more of a joy.
What are you hearing from parents who are considering sending their children to Chattanooga Prep? How are you getting through to them?
The main thing is that there are high expectations. The world tends to have low expectations for boys in general. That's why you see the statistics that you see. So to have a place where your child is safe and that has high expectations in an environment that you trust, that's the key piece. So what they're looking for is an environment that they trust, where their child can be safe, where excellence is something that is aspired to every day in all things that we do, but also making sure that the adults in that environment have the same expectations, every one of us. It's consistent. And so I think that's where the biggest gap is the gap from the school may have a higher expectation than some parents at times, because that parent doesn't have the kind of hope. They don't want to give their child false hope. So leave that to us, right? Let us be the environment where that child can thrive, and so that now the next child can see that this is possible. That's what this is. It's much bigger than just the enrollment in the school.
Every single day, parents should trust us with their most valuable resource. And to Mr. Kemp's point, trust. Can I entrust you with my scholar? The last 2 to 3 months has been walking the walk that we've talked. And so for families who are looking to enroll in Chattanooga Prep, when they look at us and they said, is it true? Are you going to stand on that? And the families who are there, they've seen that over the last few months. The first thing they looked for was hope. The next thing they looked for was the evidence of the truth of what we said. And they found both of those things. And so we've been grateful to see families engaging, re-engaging, and new families coming on board.
And for people who want to learn more about Chattanooga Prep today, where can they go online?
They can go to ChattanoogaPrep.org. There are various social media channels as well, but that's the easiest way they can apply. We have enrollment open currently, and also we're always looking for great people to join our community, whether they be faculty or students. And that's one of those things, our building, all they have to do is reach out, we'll follow up, and we can take it to the next.
And there's something after Memorial Day that is happening.
Yes, sir. One of the things that I value the most is to have a school that really is focused on serving the greater community. And so on May 27th at 6 p.m., we are hosting a virtual workshop on reaching and teaching boys. So parents can learn strategies for at home, educators can learn for strategies for in the classroom. How do boys learn best? What do they need to thrive? But also, how do you reduce the friction? Increase success without adding stress. That's what I say, because that's part of it. We don't want them to tap out. We want them to tap in. And there's ways of doing that. So I want to share that.
All right. Troy, Chad, thanks so much.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.